Hey everyone, welcome back. We're on Unit 5. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that you are completing your challenges. Before you get to Unit 5, you need to go back and complete Unit 4 challenges. They're building. We're building on top of each unit. Some of those challenges aren't a one and done deal. You're going to need to repeat them until you feel like you've gained ground. And I know I'm asking you to do difficult things. I realize that, but that's how we're going to grow. Okay? Now, Unit 5 is all about identity. And I'm going to explain why that affects anxiety and how your identity formation is crucial. It's fundamental. So let's start with a premise. The premise is simply this. Everyone on planet Earth is living for something. It may not be conscious. They may not be consciously aware of what they're living for, but everyone's living for something. Look here. Some people are living for power. The idea is, as long as I have power and control, right, then I feel okay, valuable, worthy, and significant. By the way, this little drawing here is my poor attempt at drawing a vase, and you'll notice the vase is cracked and it's leaking. Okay? The vase is a representation of humans. And we're cracked, we're broken. None of us is perfect. There's no halo over anyone on planet Earth. We're all cracked and broken, and we're trying to fill our lives with experiences, with people, with things that help us to feel okay inside. Power might be one of those. Acceptance. A lot of people are living to be accepted and liked, right? And some of you can relate to that. Money. It's not so much about money, it's about what money can give you. Money can give you security, which is important. Money can also give you pleasure. So some people are just flooding their life with as much money as possible because then they're safe and they have lots of pleasure. So let's call that hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure. Career. Some people, the way they live life, what they attach their identity to is career. As long as I'm a firefighter, I have value and significance and I feel okay. You know? This is common. So we'll dig deeper here, but I just want you to get the basic idea. Intelligence. Some people, as long as they're the most important person, the most intelligent person in the room, not the most important, but the most intelligent person in the room, the person with answers, they feel like they're okay. They feel like they're significant. So here's an example of that. I had a client in the past who came to see me because he was experiencing panic attacks. Turns out this is a college, he was in college, he was a senior, and he joined a firm, and in this firm, everybody was smart as a whip. So he went from being the smart guy in college to being low on the totem pole at the firm, and he started having panic attacks, okay? It's because the thing he was using to fill his tank was threatened or taken away. We're gonna get to that. Romance. Some people, as long as I've got a romantic attachment in my life, I feel valuable and okay. If I don't have that, I don't feel okay. Religion, some people, it's the same thing. As long as I feel connected to some religious community, I feel part of the tribe and I feel okay. Now, let me ask you, are any of these bad? Some of you would say, well, some of these are bad. I would contend they're not bad or good, they just are. Check it out. So money, for example. It's not so much money that's the issue, it's what you do with the money. Power, is power bad? No, it's what you do with the power that can be good or bad, okay? I should have written sex on here. Sex might be one. Sex can be good or bad, depending on the context, okay? It can produce babies or it can be used to inflict tremendous abuse. You see my point? Now, here's what I want you to catch. I'm not commenting on if they're good or bad. All I'm saying is everybody's living for something. So what I want you to do is just to take a minute, pause the video, and I want you to get in touch with what you might be living for. This may be a journaling exercise. You may need to go ask your parents or your friends, hey, what do you guys think I'm living for? Where do I spend my time? What is my mind drift when I have alone time? You know? Are any of these in your list? And by the way, this list is not exhaustive. Obviously, there's other categories that can go in here. But I want you to pause, get in touch with where you're at. Okay, so I want you to notice something here. What happens when these get threatened? You know, if you're the guy who's the intelligent guy and now you're at the firm, and you're no longer the smartest guy in the room. You're no longer the guy with the answers. Or you're the high school soccer star, and then you go to college, and you're no longer the star, right? The thing you were depending on to feel okay and valuable is taken away. You're going to experience inordinate amount of anxiety, depression, possibly even suicide. Here's what I mean by that. I work with a lot of firefighters and police officers who say they have a long career, or military veterans, they have long careers, and now they're discharged, honorably discharged. They're no longer with the Marines, okay? And the thing they were using, the thing that had become their identity, is no longer in the picture. And they come to see me and they're deeply depressed, some of them suicidal, some of them panic attacks and anxiety. Why? Well, the thing that they had wrapped themselves into as an identity is taken from them. My point is this: when these go bye-bye, you tend to feel anxiety. You don't feel okay. It's the opposite of okay. Personally, I grew up playing competitive soccer. I played travel soccer. I played with the Olympic development team growing up, received a full-ride Division I soccer scholarship, and then played in the minor leagues in the States and was able to play in the lower divisions in Northern Ireland. And back then, I would have told you, if you asked me, what are you living for? What are you living for? I would say something like, well, I'm living to please God and to love people. That's what I probably would have told you. I'm living to leave a legacy is probably what I would have said. But on a functional level, the fuel source that I was using to feel okay and significant was this sport. It's what the sport got me. The sport, to a degree, helped me to feel accepted, helped me to feel secure with the money, helped me to feel like I had some level of importance. All right? I couldn't have told you that back then. Hindsight's 20/20, right? So again, the point is, when these get taken or threatened, watch out. You may experience anxiety, depression, even suicidal thoughts. This is why. Look at the car here. Cars, right? Let's assume this is a car, and let's assume this car is designed to run on unleaded fuel. And what happens to the car if you put lemonade in the tank? Well, it's not going to go anywhere. In fact, the sugar is probably going to erode the tank. Cars aren't made to operate on lemonade. They're made to operate on unleaded fuel. If you try another fuel source, it's not going to work. The car won't function as it's meant to. My proposal here, this is where we get into the spiritual component, and for some of you that'll weird you out, but hear me out. My proposal is that these are all beautiful gifts, okay? They're gifts. Romance is a great gift. Sex is a great gift. Power, if wielded correctly, is a great gift. To be accepted is really nice, okay? Beautiful gifts. These are like lemonade. If you fill the tank with lemonade, it's not going to work. My proposal is that the human machine is created by a designer, an architect, who has designed the machine to run on a fuel source. That fuel source would be, let's say in AA terms, a higher power. An architect, a designer. That is the fuel source for the human. And when the human attaches himself or herself to things such as these that we've listed, what you often find, by the way, is when this stops working for you, we're suckers. We just jump to the next one. And when that stops working for you, you just jump to another one. And when that stops, you jump to another one. And we're suckers, meaning we keep trying different flavors. Now, is lemonade cool and refreshing? Yes, on a hot summer's day. And it's tasty and it's good, but it's not made to sustain the car, okay? So I would like to propose to you, and I'd like you to consider that some of the anxiety that you may be wrestling with is because you are too attached. You are too attached to some of these. And the process for reducing anxiety is a letting go experience. It's an unlearning. It's a detaching from the things we think we must have. If I must have romance and I don't have it in my life, I'm going to feel off kilter. I'm going to feel anxious. If I have to have the career, if I have to have your acceptance, see, this frees you from needing the acceptance of the crowd. Now, to be fair, you need to have love and you need to be connected to a tribe. But if you're living your life for the tribe, if you're living your life for the crowd, for acceptance, and you don't get it, you're not going to feel okay. You're going to feel off kilter. So the result when you are able to detach from some of those needed items on your list is that you're now free to really enjoy them. If I no longer need you around, I can actually enjoy you when you are around, right? That's the idea. So here's the question. If I'm telling you that this is an unlearning, a detaching experience, what do we attach to? Well, and then how do we get rooted in our own identity? This is an identity issue. A lot of you don't know who you are. If you don't know who you are, then you're not solid. You're moved easily with the wind. And where I want to get you is to a place where you're more solid. You're that solid oak. And when trials in life come, you're immovable. Doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means there's an inner strength. There's an inner solidarity. Okay? So I'm going to teach you a tool that's going to help you form that identity and get you where you'd like to be. And I want to do it by proposing this idea. So we're all familiar with a thermostat, okay? Let's propose a thermostat that is set to 70, okay? What does a thermostat do? Very simple, a thermostat regulates the temperature, okay? So I'm in Florida, if it's 95 degrees outside and the thermostat is set to 70 in here, it keeps the balance within the building. All right. If it starts to snow outside, which it would never do in Florida, and it's 30 degrees, the thermostat cranks on the heat and keeps the temperature regulated. That's a key word, regulated. All right. The thermostat regulates the temperature. Each one of us has an internal thermostat that regulates how we see ourselves. Okay. Going back to 1960, there's a famous plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz, and he wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. If you haven't read it, go check it out. It's a great read. But in the book, he talks about his experience as a plastic surgeon, and he describes meeting with patients, and some of these patients would come and they'd get, a nose job, their ears would be corrected from, say, a fire, skin burns. So he'd perform a miracle on these people. And he'd show them a before picture and an after picture, and a large percentage of his clients would say, "Doc, I look the same." And he'd show them the picture and show them the difference, and they couldn't see it. And what he began to notice was that although their external had changed, their internal picture, their inner picture, their self-image hadn't shifted to adjust to the external change. And so that's the idea. And I want you to also consider this. So this is a horrible drawing, but suppose that this is a brilliant piece of artwork, right? Hopefully you're deeply impressed by my skills. Suppose this is a original Picasso, right? And suppose I'm Picasso and I slap a number on this puppy. I say this thing is worth $100,000, okay? Now, I'm the one that poured the blood, sweat, and tears into the painting. Suppose you are, let's say, an art critic, and you come in and you you say, you know what, this is not that good. This thing is only worth $10,000, max $10,000. Now, suppose, good Lord, I feel like I could have done a better job here. You'll have to make do. Suppose the painting itself is actually now alive. It's not just a painting, it's been given life. And suppose the painting says, you know what, I think I'm only worth $100. Okay. Now my question to you in this analogy is, who's right? Who gets to determine the value of the painting? And in this scenario, I would be the higher power, the designer that created the art piece, you, and I've slapped a label and said, you're worth $100,000. This number would represent the critic, right? And this number would represent the inner critic. Who would be right? Well, I would, because I'm the one that put the blood, the sweat, the tears into the actual painting. And the job of the painting is to adjust its viewpoint to match that of the architect. And obviously not to listen to the critics. There's a lot of critics out there telling you what you are and telling you what you aren't. And a lot of you have been listening to those voices for far too long. Okay? And this is a maturing process. This is an identity formation process. This is an unlearning, a detaching from some of those voices and detaching from this voice and learning to see ourselves the way we've been created to be. Okay? Now, again, I want you to remember the way you see yourself is everything. So a lot of us are trying to live at a level 100. We want to meet our max potential. We want to be peaceful. We want to be those entrepreneurs. We want to be those people on the stages. We want to meet our potential. And yet we find that maybe we're not even living at 70. Maybe we're just living at a 50. And this is kind of our consistent pattern. This is how we see ourselves. And what I see, I work in a lot of treatment centers dealing with co-occurring disorders, and I'll see a lot of clients that they get a lot of wisdom, they amass a lot of psychological knowledge, they participate in some group therapy, and yet they never really do the hard work of adjusting their thermostat. And so they go home and they try to live at 100 with their own will, right? But you always fall back to your set point. If your thermostat's at 70, that's where you're going to live. If the way you see you is a 70, you're always going to come back to that. So they leave and they have some success for a week or 2 weeks or a month, and they always return to their set point. That's the idea. So a person will never outperform or underperform their self-image for very long. And I'm intermingling self-image and identity. Okay, it's the way you see yourself. Now, your self-image, the way you see you can be incorrect, let's say. It can be off kilter. So I want to give you a tool. It's called the identity statement. It's something that I use to crank up my thermostat, to keep my identity in check. It's a personal mental workout that you're going to use every day. And it's not so much based on how you see yourself now. It's based on where you'd like to be. And it's bringing that vision into the now. It starts with every little phrase here is going to start with I am. The reason we're using the verbiage I am is because we're not saying I want to be this. We're saying I am this now. We're taking that which we would like to be and bringing it into the present. So I'm going to go ahead and actually read you my identity statement. It's broken into 3 categories. The categories would be vocation, spirituality, and core values. This is my vocational identity statement. I am deeply instinctual and intuitive. I'm anointed for this. Healing and courage flow through my presence. So this is something that I say to myself quite frequently. And it actually calls me to attention. It slaps me across the face and it reminds me, hey, you know what? You're anointed for this, which for me means I'm designed for this. And the instinctual, intuitive part is something that I find not just attractive, but it's something that I would like to manifest. And in fact, I am an instinctual person already, but I'd like to even be more so. So I'm saying I am instead of I'd like to be. I am this already. And when you speak truth over yourself, when you begin speaking truth over yourself consistently, it begins to free you. Second category, spirituality. I'm filled with the spirit of excellence. Created in God's image, my significance and my provision come from God alone, not from men. Now, for me, this helps me detach from the list of things that I might be tempted to use as a fuel source, and I'm reminded, wait a second. People aren't my provider, and I don't get my significance from the crowd. I get my significance from the designer, from the architect who created me. So you can obviously tell that I believe in a higher power. I call that higher power Jesus, okay? And the thing to understand is when I say things like, my provision doesn't come from men, it comes from God alone. What I'm saying is I actually believe that my higher power can get me income through a million different channels. And I actually don't need to use people through an agenda. Like I can get that funding through another route. So I actually don't need income from businesses and individuals. I'm actually free to treat them with love, dignity, honor, respect without an agenda. Okay? I'm free. Lastly, core values. And I think some of you guys are going to have a really fun time with that category. This is mine. I'm relentless about mental toughness, poise, and choosing the hard path because that's where I grow. I refuse to be domesticated. Now, when I say relentless about mental toughness, I mean, for me, mental toughness means staying ruthlessly focused on my objectives in spite of setbacks, plateaus, and adversity. That's what it means for me. When I use the word poise, I mean I am ruthless about being myself. I can't be you. You're already taken. I can't be another therapist. He's already taken. I got to be me. I got to be true to me. I got to be authentic. And I'm obsessed about choosing the hard path because I grow on the hard path. I don't grow on the couch while eating potato chips. Not to say that's all bad. There's times for that. And, I refuse to be domesticated, meaning I don't really like it when people try to control me. I don't really want to be civilized. I want to be authentically me. I don't want to be a broken stallion. I want to run the hills, right? So some of you can relate to that. But the idea here is I'm giving you some material to work with. You can steal whatever you'd like, but the idea is to get your juices flowing. I've included a PDF document that's going to help give you language and some verbiage to begin creating yours. The phrases should not be that long. They need to be something you can memorize. They need to be something you can hammer down. And I want you to think, this is the last thing I'll say, I want you to think of a hammer and the nail going into a board. The more that you drive the nail into the board, the more secure the board gets to the other board. The more secure the nail gets jammed, wedged into the wood. The more you hit it, the tighter it gets, the more secure it gets. And that's the idea. You're buckling down on truth. Now, one of the things you're going to run into is when you start to say these at the beginning, part of it feels like you're not being authentic. You're like, I'm not mentally tough. I don't feel mentally tough. Well, some of these you're going to have to whittle down like you're whittling at a statue. It's like, if it doesn't give you juice, if it doesn't seem authentically you, then you're going to need to switch the language. But see, I don't always feel mentally tough. This isn't about what I always feel. It's about what I'd like to be and I already have hints of it now, but I'd like to be this. So it needs to stretch you. You need to get out of your comfort zone, stretch yourself a little bit. I don't always feel like I'm being myself, but when I remind myself of this, I'm relentless about poise. Oh, wait a second. I'm acting like somebody that I'm not right now. I need to just be me. I'm on camera. I need to just be me. When you be you, I'm telling you, that's when you're the most free. So this is really a freedom exercise. Again, it's called the identity statement. Check the PDF, take some time on it, and listen, if you can see closely, I've got lots of chicken scratch here because I've whittled with this thing. I've messed with it. And you might find 3 months from now, one of the words there just doesn't ring true for you like it did. We're going to replace that word. So it's a growth situation. It's a progressive experiment. Get it done.